the person receiving it, who is the respondent, has that chance to file his answer and also lay his claims. So if he has any counter or anything, he is free to add it, and that becomes his counter claim to whatever you are alleging. Right, so when he files that, you, the petitioner, also gets the second chance to file a reply to whatever is in the answer. Now, after all these processes are filed, then the court will do setting down the matter for trial. Now, when the matter is set down for trial, parties will be asked to file their witness statements. So your witness statement is basically whatever you are narrating for being the reason why you want the divorce. So you narrate your side of the story in that document called the witness statement. So both parties file the witness statement. We conduct CMC, which is the case management conference. So we ask you, do you want to call any other witness aside yourself? Sometimes it's necessary to call other witnesses, especially where there are a lot of ancillary aside the divorce, say issues of custody, issues of maintenance, issues of marital property sharing. So when those issues are involved, you would want to call people like the house helps, the gatesman, the workmen that built the house to show that you contributed to the properties. You would want to call other witnesses. So you are allowed to do that, and that is the CMC stage. Now after CMC, then we give a date for trial. At trial, you come into the box, you narrate orally your story. The counsel on the other side has the opportunity to cross-examine whoever is in the box, and after that, the court will give dates for judgment. On the day of the judgment, when the court is satisfied that indeed this marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation, the judge will give the divorce decree. And once that divorce decree is given, the initial marriage certificate you had is cancelled. And from there onwards, each party is free to marry any other person. So that is how the divorce proceeds.
When you were talking, one keyword that you used was marital property.
Right.
When it comes to assets,
Right.
marital assets, under the law in Ghana, how is it shared?
Okay. So this question, we have the current laws on it, but I feel like to answer it best, I would have to give you the background to how we got here, how we now have the laws on the sharing of marital or spousal property distribution now. So it used to be the case that, so sometime in the 1950s, it used to be the case that certain cases like Kwate and Mate will tell you that the woman has no share in any property, whether she contributed or she didn't contribute. Once you are the woman, you have no share in it. That used to be the position back then. Now we evolved from there and we went on to the other era where they say that each person can have a share of their marital property. So we came to cases like YEBOAH, a champon and a champon, where it says that once you had made any substantial contribution to the marital property, then the court should give you a share, whether you are a woman or you are a man. So we moved from that era again to an era where we called it the 50-50 era, which came about from the case of Mensah and Mensah, the 2012 case, where the judge is like, okay, he thinks that the sharing ratio should be equal, where equal means 50%, 50%. So whether the woman was able to make any physical financial contribution or by kind contribution, not necessarily physical cash. So whatever contribution the woman made, the court thought the fair ratio should be 50-50. But we evolved from there, and now we are in the era of cases like Anyite and Anyite, where the court is now saying that no, equality doesn't actually mean 50-50. They think that it should be equity and fairness principle. So the equity and fairness principle is saying whatever you contributed, we should look on that percentage and give you your share of the property. So it doesn't need to be cash. So if the woman was the one bathing the children to school and she has made some sort of, so we should weigh it and give her or him some share of the property. So that is the era we are in now. That's whatever contribution you made, you get that percentage in the share of the marital property.
But in quantifying what you mentioned, the one bathing the kids, how do you quantify something like this into assets for the woman to get a portion of it? How do you quantify it? Because it's not it's not like she made a contribution into the fiscal assets.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So the court uses the reasonable man's test, where we say that, so the woman has been able to afford you the peace of mind by taking care of the kids, by taking care of the home, by cooking for your workmen who were building the houses, and so on and so forth. The woman has afforded you the peace of mind and the time to be the one to go after the bag, and you got the money and then purchased the property. But on the other hand, she was making sure that you had that room to work, right? So you may not see it as financial contribution, but that alone is enough. It's a whole lot of contribution. Time, resource, energy is also a lot of contribution. So the courts puts all that into consideration.
But considering the era we are in now, where both the men and the women, male and husband and wife, work, and let's say, they're both out there making the money.
Right.
Both of them may not be at home to take off the kids. They have like a nanny who does the cooking. In a situation like this, as a lawyer, how do you, quantify asset sharing in the case where both of them were working? The watching over the kids wasn't done by one person. The responsibility was outsourced. What happens in that case? And also, in the case where before they got married, there were assets. What happens to those premarital assets? Is it part of the assets that will be divided, or it's excluded?
Right. Thank you. So let me address the latter question first. So with regards to, say, properties that were acquired before the marriage, right? So if the woman or the whoever had the property before entering into the marriage, let me say the woman had the property before coming into the marriage. Now, after coming into the marriage, the property is for her. However, there is a catch. If the man, after they had gotten married, made some sort of renovations, substantial renovations to that property that the woman had already acquired before marriage, even though it was hers before the marriage, it changes. After the man has made substantial changes, financial investments into the property, he gets the share of it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right. Now, addressing the earlier question about whether if the two of them didn't make domestic errands in the house, they were both working, and so how does contribution, or how does the court measure each other's contribution? Right. So then it's even easier, because if the woman was working, the man was also working, that means that the woman was relieving him of certain financial expenses. She probably was the one filling the gas at home. She probably was the one using her money to pay for the children's books, or she made some. That means it's even easier to measure, because that means she used money, and that is quantified. So in the divorce proceeding, we will ask for all these receipts, and we quantify that.
You ask for receipts?
Yes.
So are you advising married couples to keep receipts of whatever payment that they make?
I would not say that they should make every receipt. I mean, it's not that bad.
Okay.
It's not that bad. But I mean, if you make any substantive purchase, like you buy a car for her, and you know that in the long run, if something happens, if you don't have a receipt that you bought it, it could be that she will claim it. I mean, if it's a substantial purchase, you could keep the receipt. You may never know. You may never know. So if we think of good, we think of bad. I mean,
so if you are filling the gas, you need to keep the receipt of the gas you are filling. If whatever significant contribution you make, you need to keep receipts.
Edwin, please do.
But what happens when it comes to kids? when kids are now involved, what happens?
Right. So when there's a divorce proceeding ongoing and there are kids involved, then the issue of custody arises, right? Because there are two people now, they are going their separate ways, but they had children before the divorce is given. Is it the man or the woman who should have the children in his or her possession, right? So the issue of custody arises. Now the law or the courts always use one principle to determine that. They determine it based on the best interest principle. Then the best interest is not in any of these parties, not in the woman, not in the man. It is the best interest of the children. We always use that as the guiding principle, that whatever decision the court is going to make with regards to custody, the court should factor only one thing. His decision should be based on the best interest of the children. Now, so based on that underlying principle, we consider certain elements. Like, for instance, if the children are more than one, so they are siblings, the court doesn't want to separate. Mostly the courts do not want to separate siblings, where one sibling goes with one person, the other goes to live with the other person. They try their best to keep them together. So if they are going to give custody, they go together. So that is one principle, right? The other one too is that most often than not, the court will give minor children to their mother. So say under the age of 7 below, they always think that they need the nurturing of the mother. So if the mother's character is not in dispute, if the mother is not someone who is a drunkard, an alcoholic, maybe a prostitute, like someone whose character is in disrepute, then ideally the court will give her custody of minor kids, like such little ages. Also, the court does not want the children's environment to automatically change overnight. So if both parents were living in Accra, and that is where the children have been used to, and now upon divorce, maybe the man has now relocated to, say, Kumasi, it will be very difficult for the courts to say the man should have custody, because you will be removing them from an environment they have grown accustomed to all their lives. So the court is normally hesitant to do these things. So these are things that the court will consider before granting custody. However, we should note that when custody is granted to one party, say the custody is granted to the woman, the man would have reasonable access to the children. So the fact that custody is given to one person doesn't mean that the other has lost any kind of right or any kind of responsibility towards the children. It's not like you have won, so you've taken the kids and you're going. No, that is not so. Custody is given to one person because the children are going to live with this person. However, the other would have the opportunity to have reasonable access. So maybe on a weekly basis, it is determined by the court. So the court will determine how often should the other person see the kids, how often should the other person go on vacations with the kids. Or sometimes they even do a sharing custody, where this one will keep the kids for 6 months, the other will keep the kids for the next 6 months. So whatever the court thinks is case by case basis. Whatever the court deems fair is what they work with.
So there have been issues where, with regards to child support, is it something that the law in Ghana supports? Are there laws that push for child support?
Right. So, what you call child support is I think is known to the outside.
Yes.
Well, we know it as maintenance. I know you hear child support in movies like Suits.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how come you know it as child support. But in Ghana, we know it as maintenance. So you pay for the children's maintenance. It's equal to the child support, but it's just different names. So yes, there are laws on child support or maintenance. So as I said, if one party is given custody of the children, the other who has been given reasonable access to the children is also most often asked to pay maintenance to the one that has custody of the children. So it's not gender specific. It's not because the children are mostly with the woman, and so it's always the man that is paying the maintenance. Trust me, there are situations where the man will be given the custody of the children, especially when they are boys. There are situations where the man will be given the custody, reasonable access to the woman, and you, the woman, if God being so good, you earn more than the man. Because I left something out during the narration of the process. So at some stage, both parties are asked to bring an affidavit of means. Affidavit of means is basically whatever you earn within a year and how much your expenses are. And people think that men are richer than women, but I can tell you for a fact that some women be balling out. So in such circumstance, right, if the woman earns more than the man and the boys are young boys, and so they are given to the father, he has custody. You, the woman, you don't only have reasonable access, you are also asked to pay maintenance for the maintenance of the children, right? Because the man is keeping them in his house, but they have to eat, they have to go to school. So you that you are earning more than the man, you are asked to pay some form of maintenance for the children. So it goes both ways. So if it's the man that is earning more than you, he would also be paying maintenance to you.
So in the situation whereby the woman is earning more than the man, but the children are with the woman, the man will still be, per your definition, the man will still be required to pay maintenance?
Yes. So the court considers that both parties should be responsible for the children.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how much you earn. Once you have brought forth children into the world, you are the father, you are the mother. You should be responsible for them. So even if the woman earns more or the man earns more, you on the other side, you can bring in your little contribution. So you realize that after the court analyzes the affidavit of means and sees that, oh, you don't earn too much, but at least you are buying food for yourself. You take Uber, so you can't say that you cannot contribute anything at all because you earn lesser than the woman or the man. You can still bring in your quota, so they will not overcharge the maintenance. They will do it reasonably proportionate to what you are earning per your affidavit of means.
So what goes into determining how much a parent or somebody pays in terms of maintenance?
Right. So basically that's what we've been talking about. So it's case by case basis, right? So there's no like quota in a court where you say that upon the dissolution of the marriage you pay say 5,000 every month and it is the underlining or the yardstick for every case. No, it's case by case basis. So if in case A the man earns like about 50,000 cedis, you could pay about 10,000 cedis towards the maintenance of your children, and I think that would be fair, right? So it is every case, and it is decided upon the affidavit of means once again that I say you will be submitting to the courts.
In your opinion, do you feel that the laws in Ghana need to be reviewed or amended pertaining to divorce, pertaining to maintenance, pertaining to asset sharing? Do you feel the laws need to be amended?
Well, I must say that the status quo right now is good. It's good. I mean, the laws are working. The laws are good. We have good guidelines as to maintenance, as to custody. We have the Children's Act. We have the Matrimonial Causes Act. We have the Marriages Act. There are good laws in place. However, nothing is perfect. So if you ask me, I would say that there is still room for improvement. Something like, when it comes to maintenance, even though the laws are there, which says that you should provide maintenance for the upkeep of your children. I feel like in the more developed countries where there is called the child support, they have stricter rules. I feel like they have stricter rules because if you default in paying child support, you are hot because they will come after you.
Yeah.
The government agencies will literally come after you. You be in your office, and because you have defaulted in child support payments, you have policemen at your gates looking for you. But I don't see that happening here in Ghana, and I feel like maybe we could do better. So you have instances where divorce is granted, there is an order for the payment of maintenance. But the man has gone to sleep, and so you find single women like putting on a lot of pressure, growing older than their ages because the men are not helping. Meanwhile, they have an order. They have an order from the court for maintenance, but they are not able to enforce it because you go to the police station. I have a divorce order which says the man should pay maintenance, but they couldn't care less. And so I feel if these things, maybe there are stricter guidelines to it, stricter punitive measures, it will put people on their toes, such that you cannot give birth and abandon them on one person, such that maintenance will be taken more seriously. So I think that's one of the loopholes we could consider in the laws. Okay. But fairly, we are good.
Finally, for those our listeners, our viewers, what are your final words for them, for those considering divorce?
Well. As a Christian, this is difficult for me. Well, but this is what I can say. I mean, there is this perception about divorce that as a Christian, you're not supposed to divorce. Yeah, so that is where, as a Christian, I'm finding a little bit difficulty talking about it. But however, this is what I'm going to say. See, if you are in a marriage where you think that your life is at risk, there's issue of abuse on a daily basis, on a week, like frequent abuse, domestic violence, and you've tried talking to your parents, your elders, your church people, pastors have come in, and it is still not stopping. I think the best you can do for yourself is to exit such like situation, and the only way you can peacefully exit is by getting a divorce from that person. However, on the other hand, if your situation is not that bad, if it's not that deadly, if it's not at the point where your life is at risk, and it's just issues of, say, infidelity, issues of financial matters, issues of miscommunications, and those things that maybe are solvable, I would advise that before you run to a lawyer to file a divorce petition for you, probably you could talk to your pastor first, or you could seek guidance or counseling in wherever division you find yourself before you come to us. We would help you anyways, but we still want your marriages to work. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I want to ask one final question. Does separation demand any kind of settlement?
It's not automatic. It's not automatic. I know that when you talk about settlement, you mean alimony that is paid to the other person, right? So it's not automatic. It's case by case basis. Yeah. Even though most often the man who earns more would be asked to pay alimony to the woman. But however, it's not automatic. It's not as of right. The judge will decide, looking at the evidence before him or her, that okay, maybe you earn so much and the woman is not doing so well for herself. You've put her in a status that if the divorce is granted, she will go back down.
Yeah.
You used to give her, say, monthly allowance of like 5,000 cedis. Because of you, she has stopped working. So she's not earning anything. And if no alimony is awarded, because you earn a lot as a man, if no alimony is awarded, her life status drops too low. So the court may consider all these things and then give the woman some sort of alimony to bring her to a state where she can take care of herself even after the divorce. So it's not automatic, but most often the court encourages granting of alimony.
Thank you very much. You've said a whole lot that we need to unpack, and I'm sure our listeners and our viewers will be playing this over and over again to understand the legal complexities when it comes to divorce, and also when it comes to marital asset separation, and so much more. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Edwin, and a very good evening to your listeners and viewers.
Thank you. And that is VIDA TEIKO NARTEH ESQ from Gavin and Cross.
Right.
So I'm sure she'll be here again to talk about other pertinent issues that you definitely raise in our comment. And I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen again to the Kristocentric News. My name is YEBOAH EDWIN TAKYI, your Christian news anchor, and I'll always say, God is not done with you. Your best is yet to come. Please enjoy the rest of your day.